Hey everybody and welcome back. My name is Jeremy and today I thought I would talk about all the books I read in June. I got quite a few done. I was pretty proud of myself, a little bit more active than normal. Definitely got some manga in there, got some arcs. I feel really accomplished. This was a good month for me, so I thought why not talk about them. Excuse the tank top. My central air is out. Have to get it fixed. Until then, we're sweating, we're hot. Moving on. The first book that I got to was actually an e-arc of The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. This is a tight family drama kind of story where our main character is a young woman who is in college, and she is also trying to keep her family together since her father ended up leaving her mother, her sister, and herself to go to his mistress. And our main character just has to kind of deal with all the pressure of just trying to be a successful young woman, keeping the family together, going to college. So a lot's going on, a lot's processing. And as she is swimming through all those tensions, she ends up kind of getting some malicious vibes. This book is definitely about the descent or ascent, however, of a serial killer who is our main character. And I would say that the book starts out pretty slow. I would say around 50% is when the book really shoots up in the action and kind of just the promise of this serial killer. You have all the dynamics that you're learning about through the first 50%, and then our little serial killer character really blossoms. It gets definitely more gross, more gruesome, a little bit more brutal. And if you can't tell from the title, our main character does end up getting kind of an appetite for eyes of the victims she does things with. So this is definitely a nice read. I had a really good time with it. It's very fast paced after that first 50%, but the 50% before was very character driven. You really got to understand where our main character was coming from and kind of her breakdown. And I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I think the ending was a little too perfect for me and left me feeling a little unsatisfied, but it was still a solid 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I read Happiness Falls by Angie Kim. This is another tightly wound family drama where the main character's father goes missing in the woods after taking her younger sibling on a walk. The younger sibling has Angelman's syndrome and basically cannot talk, is nonverbal. So they have to try to work with the younger sibling to figure out what happened to the father. This definitely starts off and is kind of a mystery for the majority of the book, yet towards the end it felt like that kind of fell away and focused more on the family dynamics, which was great. It was a good time. It's just I felt kind of misled because there were all these potential things going on. What happened to the father? Did he leave? Is he cheating? Did he escape? Did he purposefully leave the younger sibling by himself? And just so many unique things that could have happened that the ending left me a little disappointed. And I think the main character, she is a young college student, very knowledgeable, knows everything about everything. And that was fun to read about, but she could sometimes get a little annoying or just, she knew everything. So it's like she just had an answer for everything. And I did enjoy the representation in this. I loved learning about Angelman syndrome, but unfortunately I feel like just kind of feeling misled with the mystery aspect left me giving this a 3 out of 5 stars. It was good. Probably not something that I would recommend maybe, but it was still an interesting time. I liked the characters, I liked the dynamics, I liked the representation. This one saddens me a little bit. Next, I read Emperor of Ruin by Django Wexler. This is the third and final in the Burning Blade Silver Eye trilogy. And book 1 and book 2 I had a good time with. I gave them a 4 out of 5 stars. It's kind of like Star Wars meets fantasy. It's a nice, unique blend. But unfortunately, Emperor of Ruin just didn't really stick the landing for me. I think this world is so unique and so vast that book 3 felt like it just went back to all the places we already visited in book 1 and book 2. And there's even a race of creatures in this series called the ghouls that in this book were sadly non-existent. I get it from a plot standpoint, but it was kind of disheartening not to dive deeper into them and their world. And you know, this is the final book in a series, so there's gonna be epic fights, there's gonna be the big baddie coming in, and it just didn't feel epic enough. It just felt almost too easy at times, or just not, there wasn't enough struggle, I feel like, for me. It almost feels like book 3 could have just been mushed back into 1 and 2, and we could have had a duology, but instead we had 3, and it didn't wow me, and that saddens me. I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5. I wanted more. I just wanted to explore the world more and really be blown away by the ending, and unfortunately that did not happen. Next, I read Evocation by S.T. Gibson. This is about a young man who is possessed by a demon/devil and the married couple that he gets entangled with. There is not a lot of magic that happens in this book, unfortunately. For me, I think I was expecting more of like a deep dive into magic and what we give up to ultimately obtain what we want. Kind of thinking like Ninth House from Leigh Bardugo, but Evocation is just kind of light on the magic. There's a magic society, there's witches, warlocks, and all kinds of interesting things, but unfortunately, it feels like it focuses more on the characters, which is fine. I love a good story with amazing characters with a backdrop of something supernatural, but unfortunately, Evocation didn't really have characters that I enjoyed. I felt like they were mostly annoying or kind of snooty and just not really my cup of tea. I wanted more from the magic. I wanted more from the story, but ultimately not a lot really happens, and I didn't find myself enjoying it that much. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars because I think I enjoyed where it could have gone, but in the end, it just didn't go that way, and that's fine. And it just wasn't one that really kept my interest. Next, I did a deep dive into manga. I read volumes 1 through 6 of Promised Neverland. It was recommended to me by a friend, and I had originally watched the anime way back when, loved the first season, heard season 2 took a different route than the manga, so I ended up not going with it because I didn't hear great things about it. But my friend was like, no, you need to read the manga. So I was like, why not? Of course, I'm obsessed. I got through 1 through 6 this month, and I'm continuing with the series. It's a great time. If you don't know anything about this series, it's not a spoiler. It's on the synopsis of the first volume, but is about a bunch of kids being raised in an orphanage where the main goal of said orphanage is to raise these kids to be food for demons. The main characters find out, they freak out, and they plan to escape. The series is just so inventive. There's so many twists and turns. I truly don't know what is going to happen volume to volume, and that just keeps me so entertained, so engaged, and every time I'm flipping the pages, I'm like, truly anything can happen. It's wild, it's crazy. There are only 20 volumes, and I like that there is an end in sight, knowing that I can get there, I can achieve it, and I can shelve it and move on. So I believe all of these are between 4 and 5 stars. I think the first few are 4 out of 5, and then towards the end, it starts getting to 5 out of 5. I'm looking forward to starting volume 7 here soon, and it's just been a really, really fun time. Next, I have The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. This was a great fantasy book. This was very unique. It's a new world. It's a new magic system. It is basically a murder mystery set in a fantasy world. In this world, there are these walls that protect the people from giant sea leviathans coming out of the ocean and rampaging across the land. Our main character is a detective's assistant who is genetically modified to basically remember everything perfectly through smelling certain scents. This book is just wild. It's so good. I'm not normally a fan of like murder mysteries, but in a fantasy world where literally anything can happen, I was so entertained. There's so many twists and turns in this book that the author just does so well. They're so in control of every place this book goes, and the magic system had me just as intrigued as like Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I felt the same kind of awe and just intrigue that I did when I originally read that series. And this was just a great time. The magic system revolves around like growth, like nature, mutations, and I just found myself tabbing this way more than I do any other book. I was just really happy with this book. I can't wait for the rest in the series. I believe that the ending was a little whatever. It just like didn't hit every note that I wanted it to. So I ended up giving this a 4.5 stars, but still, it was a fantastic ride. I recommend it for anybody that really likes that kind of like whodunit with a fantasy, not even backdrop, fully fantasy world, fantasy plot. It was a fantastic read. Can't recommend this one enough. Next, I read Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng. This is more dystopian than I thought it was going to be. It is set in a like alternate US where anything Chinese is viewed as anti-American. So a lot of Chinese Americans have to basically be the perfect citizens so their kids don't get taken away, they don't get discriminated. And it was scary because this is not far off from our world in America. And I think Celeste Ng definitely has a lot to say in this story. There's definitely a lot of nuance, a lot of heart put into this, and you can't miss it. It's well done. Unfortunately, I feel like the characters fell a little bit flat. They felt like they took a back seat to more of the commentary on just American views and politics. And it was still an engaging and interesting read. I just wanted more from our characters. I wanted to see them interact more with this crazy world and just how they deal with all these things. And Celeste Ng is a fantastic writer. Her writing is beautiful. It is so well done. I just wanted just a little bit more. It's definitely worth a read. I definitely enjoyed my time with it. Just in the end, maybe wanted a little bit more from the characters. Finally, I want to talk about some DNFs I did. I did one DNF for The Lost Story by Megan Schaefer. This was pitched as like a Narnia-inspired story where two boys went missing. They came back 6 months later. No one knows where they went, but apparently they went to a magical world. I got about 50% through this one and ended up DNFing it just because I felt like the characters were just kind of like archetypes of like characters we've already read before. They didn't really feel like they were doing much different or anything new. And the magical world that they do end up traveling to eventually wasn't really that great. Like when you're comparing your world to Narnia, I'm expecting some amazing world building, but unfortunately it just fell a little flat for me. And I ended up just DNFing it because I wasn't enjoying it. It felt like it was a chore to pick it back up. But I do think it will be popular. I do think people will really like it. So definitely give it a shot. Just for me, it wasn't hitting at the right time. Finally, I'm going to be DNFing The Genesis of Misery. I started this on audiobook and it is like a sci-fi adventure and there's a lot of new terms, there's a lot of new worlds, places, and I just couldn't follow along listening to it. I was getting too confused, I was getting too lost. It did pique my interest, so that's why I am soft DNFing it. I'm gonna put it to the side, back of my TBR cart, and hopefully be able to read it physically and just be able to follow along with it better. Maybe tab it, just flip back and forth if I need to. So I'm not done with it, but for now, it's just not fitting in with my brain space. Those are all the books that I got to in June. I had a lot. I had some manga, horror, fantasy, fiction, and I just feel really accomplished. I'm hoping to go into July strong, and I would love to know what you guys got to in June, if you found any new favorites, and what you're looking forward to reading in July. As always, guys, keep reading, and bye. Thank you.